Eric O'Keefe here for the Land Report. It's a rare day when a 10,000-acre ranch comes on the market so close to so many metropolitan areas, but that's exactly the case with Texas's Camp Cooley Ranch, less than 2 hours from Houston, from Austin, a quick commute from Dallas. And the most amazing part about this property are the resources on it, whether it be oil and gas, water, hay, and for the savvy investor going even farther to the point of wetland mitigation bank credits. Camp Cooley Ranch is a major undertaking. We're going to be sitting down today with Bernie Utrich, a real estate pro who's been in the game for 20 some odd years, but will tell us why this is his greatest project ever. Stay tuned. Bernie, you've been involved in real estate now coming up on 20 years. You cut your teeth in the States in one of the toughest markets, Southern California's retail market. And I know you've done a lot of work with celebrity properties, celebrity estates. And I want to find out a little bit about your path to Texas farms and ranches. What brought you all the way from Southern California here to the heart of some of the finest ranch country in the nation?
Really, in a word, Texas. Texas brought me here. My wife's from here. Her family is ranching.
That's their background?
Their background is ranching. My family is, ranching coconut, cocoa, and cattle plantations in Papua New Guinea and Australia. And so really after, 15, 20 years in the high-end, ultra-competitive, real estate market of Southern California, Los Angeles, Malibu specifically, it was time to get back to the ranch and get back to country, and so that's why I came here.
What is it to Texas and Texas ranches that makes them so iconic, and yet they deliver so much opportunity from an investment standpoint? What's that rare combination?
Well, in a word, it's a ranch like Camp Cooley. There are a lot of iconic names out there, 4.6s, King Ranch, Wagner Ranch, that type of thing. They're historically the big all-American ranches. Camp Cooley is what I would call a modern-day icon. In today's cattle industry, Camp Cooley was probably the most prolific brand name in the cattle industry. King Ranch will always be King Ranch, always has been King Ranch, but King Ranch, for example, is in turf and is in fruit and is in pecans, all those sorts of things.
As well as cattle.
As well as cattle. And Camp Cooley has just become the biggest brand name in modern day cattle industry. They were the second largest seed stock producer in the world with Brangus and Charolais cattle.
Now, as much as that cattle is such a driver, when you look at Camp Cooley, I'm going to switch a little bit to the history of the property. It has a unique background because it's a combination of not only its historic location, but also the fact that it was amalgamated into a much greater whole.
Yeah, it's an amazing ranch from a lot of aspects, but it was first put together out of about 35 or 40 tracks. Burt Wheeler did that back in the 40s and the 50s. Well-known
Houston liquor store operator.
Liquor store operator, character, politician, entertainer, pretty much one of those big, Texas legends.
You mentioned that Camp Cooley had once been 30 to 40 different properties.
Right.
How are they stitched together? Is it apparent when you go and drive around these 15 square miles of acreage that you're going from one old homestead to another?
It's not, Eric. It's one of the amazing things about this ranch is that when you drive or fly this ranch, it looks like it was there that way from day one. It flows incredibly well. The topography, the uplands, the bottomland, the rolling hills, Camp Cooley Hill, which is the legendary muster point of Captain Charles G. Cooley back in the Civil War days, that has a 360-degree view of not only Camp Cooley Ranch, but as far north, looking towards Dallas and south towards Houston. So it's always, it's an amazing piece of property to drive through or fly over for that reason. It doesn't look like it was stitched together. A lot of ranches do. You go from ranch A, B, and C.
Pasture, roads, different fence lines, different materials, different ages. That's readily apparent. But Camp Cooley
And that's one of the, Camp Cooley looks like one, and I think, you know, two people really deserve the credit for that. One, Bert Wheeler for putting all those tracks together, and two, Klaus Burkel for when he came in and bought this ranch in 1991, and he's only the second owner. He came in and really gave this ranch a makeover from soup to nuts. Pastures, vegetation, clearing, fencing, capital improvements. There were some capital improvements there. He really increased those and added to it immensely. He deserves the credit for really opening the ranch up and making it systematic and look like one that it does.
Tell me, from the standpoint of Klaus's investment and improvements, what percentage of the acreage was usable prior to his ownership?
Probably only about 50%, I'm told from several different sources. By the time Bert Wheeler sold this ranch to Klaus in 1991, he had been sort of off-site managing the place, and he had a guy managing the place, and it was only sort of barely managed. He was very sick for a long time. The place was run down, a lot of the buildings were run down. There was only one set of pens on the place. That sort of thing. So it wasn't really improved the way that you see Camp Cooley has been improved today.
What you see today is literally what's the improvements wise. Much of it took place in the last 2 decades. 2
decades and $20 million later. You know, Klaus has become a focal point of the cattle industry in parallel to his brand. But what he's done to that ranch and what he's invested in that ranch in a very German way has been absolute perfection, thoroughness, systematically orientated, whether it's the fencing systems and the cross-fencing systems, whether it's the 3 sets of working pens or working locations around the ranch, one of which has fiber optics to a USDA certified lab, embryo transfer lab, called the Highland pens. Everything is very precise, very tidy. I've had so many people come through this ranch and look at it, and 2 or 1, they all remark at how incredibly tidy and neat and clean this ranch is. You won't see a piece of paper. You won't see an old rusted out vehicle. You won't see a fallen down fence.